Another recommendation from the Juice Box. If you would like to recommend videos for me to watch, go join the Discord server using the link in the description below or the QR code on the screen. If you're on YouTube. If you're on the live, you got to go to the description. Steve Saylor presents Diversity and IQ from Passage Studios. This was shilled to me as, what did it say again? Let me check. Boomer Nazi tries to compare races like it's a video game. Let me show you the thumbnail. Diversity and IQ. Should be interesting. It's from like 7 months ago, but looks fun. Why not? We don't knock the older videos, the classics from 7 months ago. It's basically like ancient by now. It basically was in high school with Jesus. 7 months old? Yeah, right. If it's not from 12 seconds ago, you might as well just throw it in the trash because it's got mold, brother. It is aged. Okay, this looks official. I like how hard it goes.
My name still is Steve Saylor. In the second video, we're continuing our discussion about the nature of IQ and diversity. To put it again in gamer terms, the idea that some people, and by proxy...
I mean, I like the style. I'm not gonna lie, I like the style of this. The problem is that this is not the format, like, for talking about it as though, like, in terms of gaming. I don't know, like, it just, like, it lost the magic as soon as it, like, switched screens over to this.
The idea that some people, and by proxy some groups, have different character builds.
It's a troll, Alec, come on. Is this a troll? Did I get troll-a-lolled? Hey, this isn't Dennis Prager. The noticing will continue until the stereotypes stop being perpetuated. You should have let me figure it out, the little noob. You spoiled the surprise. Now it's not going to be fun. I was talking about YouTube chat. Oh, okay. So this guy's completely serious then. Okay, cool. My splendor has returned. The colors returned to my face.
The nature of IQ and
I'm
diversity.
smiling again.
To put it again in gamer terms, the idea...
Okay, what does it say? Noticing friendliness, intelligence, film criticism, dry humor, speech rate, tacky mag, article, conclusion, paragraphs. Okay.
That some people, and by proxy...
This is a terrible spread of skills.
See, some groups have different character builds. Tends to freak people out these days. They imagine that we live in a world where every player has the same skill points. Of course, maybe for the powers that be, it's easier to imagine ruling over a world of copycat NPCs. But it's obvious people have different character builds.
Diversity.
Some of it appears to be genetic. Much of it is also cultural.
Yeah, sure.
We can see it in other traits around the world. For example, height. These are the Mbuti people, a population of African pygmies who live in the dense jungles of Central...
Is pygmies politically correct? I feel like he just slurred them. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I feel like I can't fight the feeling that that was uncouth of him to say.
Africa. The average height for a full-grown male is 4'11", and these are the Dinka of South Sudan. They have an average male height of nearly 6 feet and have produced several notable giants such as NBA players Manute Bol and his son Bol Bol. The Dinka's extraordinary native height allowed South Sudan to nearly defeat the USA Olympic basketball team in 2024. And here are the Samoans, whose prowess in American football and rugby seems to owe to their tremendous size combined with excellent speed. Different peoples from different regions of the world express different traits. If you watch the Olympics, you'll notice that gives certain...
Like, this doesn't go anywhere good. From here, you're like, okay, so we can see that it can happen physically, but what about mentally? Like, okay, got it. Got it, brother. You're demonstrating that people are different and therefore their brains are different and we should treat them differently as a result,
countries and population groups advantages
like what do we...
in some sports over...
Okay, here's my thing. Let's say that you're completely right. Black people are just dumber. Got it. Now what? What do we take from this? What policies do we put in? What next? Please, go on. I'd love to know. The audience is waiting.
For others. In the 100-meter dash, for example, every finalist during the last 11 Olympics, except one, 87 out of 88 going back to 1984, has been at least of half West African descent. Yet, the reality of human diversity remains remarkable.
Look at how much time and effort and like they just dump resources into being a racist. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, like, you can actually study things and get a degree or something, Like, you can put all of this historical and cultural knowledge to good use, brother. But no, we have to waste time, like, explaining why IQ scores are really important. And the fact that, like, some African tribe has, like, a 95 IQ means that we need ethnostates. Like, come
difficult
on.
for many of our leading intellectuals and cultural commentators to acknowledge. This is partly because they think that if you acknowledge that people are different in all sorts of ways that we can see, they might also be different in all sorts of ways we can't see.
Yes, I called it. I knew it.
The idea that evolution and the differences it creates
no,
might not stop at the neck.
No.
Some people in groups
Oh, no, I called it, but it might be worse than what I said.
might have certain cognitive differences that create different outcomes on average, and especially at the extreme ends of performance. The most fearful among us seem to believe that even acknowledging the different talents or abilities people have, their different character builds, is to justify violence and oppression. Regardless of differences, all people are deserving of dignity and equality under the law. All people are made in the image of God. And what about intelligence? What about IQ?
It comes off like a parody. It really does. Like, I believed the little noob earlier. They were saying it about something else, but they said this is a parody. Come on, or this is a troll. Come on, and I believe them because, like, it looks like one. Like, it's just believable enough. It's very funny.
Good to remember that over our own lives, we are not even equal to ourselves. That is how elusive equality and IQ truly is. For example, as I have gotten older, my raw IQ processing power has dropped considerably. The young Steve Saylor of 30 years of age would be frustrated at times with the old Steve you're watching right now. Should I therefore be dehumanized, genocided, or simply treated unkindly because I'm not as bright as I used to be? Nah. Equality, when we can actually create it, such as of all men before the law, can be a good thing. It is important in any discussion about race and IQ to remember that we are dealing...
Not is, it just can be. We have to use equality very sparingly and carefully. Okay? It can be a good thing when implemented correctly. But see, when you go around saying all men are created equal, you know, that's a loaded gun you're carrying, brother. I don't know. You got to be careful.
Every race turns out geniuses, and it's not really giving people their fair shake to assume that acquaintances...
I want him to use like a monkey head for the dumb guy. That would be so funny.
Must be
please
Isaac Newton for being in one group or a dummy if they're in another.
Go full eugenics. Wait, hasn't the science proven that race doesn't exist biologically? Yes.
Nobody really believes that. I mean, consider the source. The same people who say race isn't real are usually the same people who say sex isn't real. That there are truly...
They're not saying that it's not real. They're saying it has no biological, like strict biological basis. Obviously, there are racial categories that correspond to certain skin colors, certain cultures, etc. Right? That happens as a correlation. Okay, but the point is that the construct of race is completely social. Like the whole construct. Like, we could just ditch it. We could just stop keeping track of people's race. We could just, you know, not care about what skin color you have any more than we care about your eye color. Like, we could just do that. And it would be like race was never even an idea that you spoke of, because there are just people and there are differences. And however drastic those differences may or may not be, it doesn't matter. They're still people. Can I Fed post yet? Not yet.
There are no biological differences
I'll let
between
you know when.
girls and boys. In truth, biology and genetics are real. Not everything can be wished away using the alchemy of words. You'll notice also the idea that race
the alchemy of words
exist is something those same people never say when topics such as, I don't know, affirmative...
Again, you're conflating two things. They said biological basis, right? Which is a little bit of a misunderstanding. I think there is some biological basis for how we categorize race. Okay, biology plays into it. I understand that. But at its core, it's not biological, it's strictly social. That's the point. It's like saying there's a biological basis for sex categories, for gender categories, I should say. Like, obviously, sex is biological. For gender categories, there's a biological basis in some aspects, and in other aspects, there's not. Because if you think about it, right, men or women could wear dresses, Like it just is a matter of what we're taught is masculine or feminine and what we ought to do or not do. So like, you know, I've worn a dress before. I did not spontaneously combust. It was semi-comfortable. It's just not for me. But my point is, enough about me and my beautiful dress. My point is, yes, there is a biological component to consider with both gender and race. Okay, that's true. But at its core, it's just a social construct. We could just ditch it tomorrow. Just say no more race. We don't look at people's race anymore. We don't keep track of it. We don't notice it. Nothing. Like there is no race. There's just the human race.
Of action or diversity, inclusion, and equity come up.
So what is race then?
In my book Noticing, I wrote, the most rigorous definition of a racial group is a partly inbred extended family. Race is about who your ancestors.
Does Alec only leave VODs up for a short amount of time? I have them in a playlist on my channel. Leaving them public, unfortunately, affects your algorithm numbers. So unlisting them and then putting them in a playlist is the best move. Yeah, it's a book called Noticing. That's
is
great.
A partly inbred.
I'm just a noticer. You know, I notice things. The most rigorous definition of a racial group is a partly inbred extended family.
Extended family. Race is about who your ancestors are on your biological family tree. In practice, the federal government simply asks people to self-identify. Is that scientific? Well, it turns out to be good enough for government work.
Okay. I don't know if that's entirely true. Like, it's not just about your lineage, because like that gets all messed up. Once you start, like, it made sense at first, and that's why I didn't say anything. But once you really start to think about it, like, you can have all kinds of stuff going on with your lineage, you know, and you can still be considered a particular race, you know, like the German race, for instance, right? Like, or the, if you want to say like the Anglo-Saxon race, or like whatever racial category you want to use, Black, African, Chinese, doesn't matter. You're going to find discrepancies. You're going to find abnormalities. Like, it's not a consistent way of categorizing people into a certain racial category. Like, race is all kinds of things mixed together. And it's hard to, like, once you really start diving into race, that's why we have critical race theory, because of how complex it is. It's not that simple. Okay? And for the record, I have a biology degree, and guess what usually doesn't come up? Race. Sometimes it does. Okay, for some reason, I believe if you are African American or some kind of African descent, it is more likely that you get sickle cell. Okay, I believe that's true. But usually, for the most part, race doesn't come up.
Ashkenazi Jews, European Jews, appear to average the highest, maybe.
And really, that's more about your location anyway. Like, I think that developed in Africa because of the mosquitoes there.
Ashkenazi Jews, European Jews, appear to average the highest, maybe around 108 to 110, followed by Northeast Asians, maybe 105, then by Gentile white Europeans and North Americans, about 100. The world mean is around 90, about where Hispanic Americans tend to score. African Americans traditionally average in the mid to upper 80s, and Africans in the difficult environment of sub-Saharan Africa in the 70s.
Okay, but like, what do we take from that? You know, like IQ, all that means is that your IQ is 70. Like, there's not much you can glean from that. It's really hard to get a good grasp on like how intelligent somebody is, because what is intelligence at the end of the day? You know what intelligence was back in agrarian cultures? Farming. If you knew how to farm, your IQ might as well have been in the thousands. These days, you wouldn't consider that. In fact, I bet if you took a stereotypical, you know, middle American farmer, all right, like some dude who just like works on the fields or whatever, and gave him an IQ test, probably wouldn't be that high. Average at best, I bet. But again, back in the day, like that would have been it. He would have been like the smartest guy ever because he can farm the best. It doesn't mean anything. Like they're just just giving you puzzles and seeing how fast you can do them. That's one way to measure intelligence, sure, but I just don't buy that it's that useful to us. I don't think IQ is useful.
No. Environment
IQ tests can let you know whether or not somebody is alive to take the test. That's what they can do for us.
is a large factor. Consider South Koreans, who today are both much taller and much higher scoring on cognitive tests than their grandparents in 1960. Their only problem is they've stopped reproducing.
They've stopped breeding.
Not in the most important sense of predictive validity. White and black Army recruits with 100 IQs on the AFQT, for instance, will perform about equally well on the job. Any kind of non-functional, non-predictive bias against minorities.
Come on, you stuttered, brother. No, this format is too official to stutter.
QT,
I'm judging harshly. I'm judging
for
harshly.
instance, will perform about equally well on the job.
Did I stutter?
Any kind
Yes.
of non-functional, non-predictive bias against minorities in test design has been radioactive for generations. So all the questions that were unfair to minorities were removed long ago. As research into human genetics gets more advanced, we're only going to know more about the nature of not only IQ, but also of genetic ancestry. Race science companies such as Ancestry.com and 23andMe have already mainstreamed thinking about genetic
Race science companies. That's crazy. Honestly, they could sue him for that shit. Race science companies. No, they're genetic science companies, brother. Okay? And yeah, you can argue there's some like weird, like what the people who get it are, you know, they got some weird shit going on. But like, it's a natural thing to want to know where you came from, who you came from, you know, like, I'm sorry, that's just interesting. Like thinking about, oh, I was but a sperm in my dad's ball sack, right? And then before that, I was like, you know, I was just some soup out in space. My consciousness was distributed perhaps in like some rocks and sand or something, you know, and then some creature ate that, and then my dad ate that creature, and now I'm here. You know, like thinking about where you came from is super interesting. And that's why those companies exist. They're not for race science.
Me have already mainstreamed thinking about genetic ancestry in more rigorously scientific ways. The mainstream media and academia's cosmic horror over thinking about IQ differences between groups only seems to make it more of an explosive topic. This conspiracy of silence actually contributes to thinking that some groups must be less in a moral sense than others just because they have a lower average IQ. A healthy discussion about IQ and even race and IQ helps to make the topic less politically salacious.
Here's the thing, okay? Talking about trans children is controversial. People don't want to touch that. So guess what the researchers do? They talk about it anyway. They continue to run tests because they're not here for that bullshit about like whether or not this is, you know, really a thing or whether it's ethical. Yes, it's ethical, and they know that it's ethical. So they're not engaging in that bullshit discussion. They just run the tests, okay? And yet every single like IQ race scientist, guru, whatever, all they can do is defend that. I promise it's not controversial. It's not controversial, okay? Just trust me, it's not controversial. We don't want to do anything bad with this. Nothing bad at all. I am just saying that if only white people lived in America, our IQ would go up, but I'm not saying anything about that. Like, shut the f up. We know what you're doing. We know who you are.
No, first of all, you're watching my video, so you're obviously a bright person.
Oh, that yellow.
So, you're likely on the right side of the bell curve.
Oh.
Second, there's vast variation within all groups. For example,
oh, you know what the yellow's doing? Look. It's like giving him a red and blue outline. Is that the yellow color doing that? That's crazy.
About 7 or 8 million African Americans score above the average
That's a
IQ for
wild
white
color.
Americans.
This is, no, you know what this is? He's in the back rooms. Done. What was he talking about?
Americans score above the average IQ for white Americans. In summary, I believe the truth is better for us than ignorance, lies, or wishful
But
thinking.
to what
Until
end? Like,
next time.
Like, what does IQ score do for us? What does it do? Height, measuring people's height does something quite obvious for us. People of different heights sometimes just have different capabilities. Very tall people can reach very tall places, you know? That's pretty useful. What does the difference in IQ actually tell us about what somebody can or cannot do? What? Because if you can't, like, solve puzzles fast enough for your boss's liking, Guess what? You can practice and get better at that. You can rig IQ tests. Like, you can study for them and train for them and raise your IQ just by practicing. Like what's the point of measuring IQ? What does it do? This is what nobody answers to me. They don't ask for my IQ on any kind of job application. In fact, I don't know if I've ever seen that. It'd be a silly thing to ask for, in my opinion. I just don't know what it does. So, like, all this looks like to me is just trying to demonstrate why black people are dumber than you. You know, I know that's not charitable of me, but you're just defending, like, horrible worldviews. That's all. Hi, thanks so much for watching and making it to the end of the video. I just wanted to let you all know that I love and appreciate everybody in my community, whether you can support me financially or just by liking, commenting, and sharing my videos. It helps way more than you know. That being said, I do want to give a very special thanks to my tier 4 subs, which would be Space Timid and Hot Take Andy. And thanks so much to my monetary subscribers from any of the tiered subs, or anybody who gives me money in any form, including going to my Patreon shop, donating money to me directly. It all helps way more than you know. If you do decide to help me financially, you can get some really cool perks like early access to content, exclusive access to censored videos, also some really cool badges next to your name. Even if you can't afford a monetary subscription, just watching, sharing, and commenting on my content helps way more than you know. Thanks again, and I will see you all in the next video.